Welcome everyone to Mail Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 7, Episode 21. It's called Firstborn. So spoilers for the episode as always. This one is a Worf-focused episode, and more specifically, an Alexander-focused episode, which is Worf's son, obviously. And it kind of starts off with, like, Alexander kind of not really wanting to go through with some Klingon traditions. He doesn't want to take this vow that you're supposed to take when you're like 13. It's like the Klingon version of like a bar mitzvah or something like that, where it's like, this is a vow to become a warrior. And Alexander's like, I don't want to become a warrior. I think I'm good not being a warrior. Which makes Worf feel weird. And Picard agrees to let Worf take him to a Klingon celebration, which just happens to be happening soon on a planet they can get to in time. And then the plot kind of spins into an assassination attempt on Worf and a Klingon who shows up, who saves his life, and then they try and investigate like why this assassination attempt happened, whilst also some more, let's try and talk to Alexander about like what his future is and what his heritage is, and whether or not I should tap into that. I guess the thing I'll get out of the way before we talk about anything else is simply some interesting little DS9 connections they threw into this episode, which is not even important, but just a bit of flavour, I guess.
They feel very connected right now over the last, like, episodes on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the connections between, like, the last couple of each episode, of each shows, had, like, some big world things that were connecting them, and that was kind of cool. This is more just, oh, some of these other Klingon sisters, which we actually, and I do vaguely remember them from Deep Space Nine, they might be behind this attack. So it was just a kind of a neat little thing of them using these characters that were
those sisters have been on both shows. I remember them on the episode where Worf was on the homeworld.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, but they mentioned that the last time they were seen was on Deep Space Nine, so that's why they, you know, and we get like a video call with Quark which
immediately makes this the best episode of the season.
I don't know if I'd go that far, because I don't think the episode's that great otherwise, but I
actually think it's a pretty solid episode.
I don't know. I think a lot of the attempts to try and train Alexander are a little bit...
It's a bit repetitive.
Yeah, I wasn't really feeling those. And I think the twist, once it eventually appears, felt a little, I don't know, out of nowhere for me. Like, obviously, they do that one thing right before the twist where they give you, like, a reason to think something weird's going on that's time-related. But the twist itself, I thought, oh, okay, we're going that direction, I guess.
I agree, but I didn't hate it. And also, it does, once I stopped and thought back, it did track logically with everything that Klingon had said, the way he'd been acting, and like the way he'd been pushing things in a direction. It all lined up pretty well.
Yeah, I guess this wasn't that, like, I don't know. It felt like it should be the start of a bigger plot as opposed to it's solved already after one conversation with Worf, which is ultimately what it is at the end. So
yeah, I can't argue that.
No, it just feels a little bit lukewarm to me overall in terms of ideas. Like, there's a cool idea here that maybe if it was going to play out over like a few episodes or even a two-parter might have been more interesting.
There's a cool idea here that they eventually stole and developed and became a series of movies. It's essentially the Star Trek reboot movies, right? With the Spock stuff.
Oh, kinda. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, in a sense.
It's not exact, but I think there's a lot of parallels with that here, and it feels like maybe someone liked this idea and was like, we could do that better.
Yeah. So what we're dancing around here, of course, is that this other Klingon, what was the name they were using for him until the reveal? Kitmar.
Yep.
Yeah. He turns out to be Alexander from the future. This is actually Worf's son. So the fact that he's been like arguing and yelling about how they need to get Alexander to accept that he's a Klingon and that he's a warrior and has to go down this path, let's send him to a warrior school and all the rest of it, has a little bit of a different context once you find out that this is himself from the future who's trying to change his own past. And the reveal that he's doing all this because he watched his own father die, he watched Worf be killed, because it seems like Alexander was trying to like promote peace and like, you know, all the factions working together on the Klingon homeworld, but that they just saw that as weakness and then ended up assassinating Worf as a result. So he's trying to come back and change his entire path at the genesis of childhood effectively.
Yeah, which I don't hate. Ultimately, I think, like I say, you definitely could have done more with it, but I don't dislike it as an idea, and I think it does. It makes some of his previous scenes better for me. Not that I thought they were necessarily bad, but with the extra layer of context, I think I like some of them more in hindsight. I'm thinking things like the first one in the holosuite where they've got the fake assassination happening again, and he's like, "Oh well, what would you do? You I know how you felt. You felt afraid. You felt like you couldn't do anything. So let's fix that. Let's make it so you can do something. You can fight back. So next time this happens, you'll know what to do." And it felt very hypothetical in the moment. And we're like, "Oh yeah. It feels like, of course you'd feel like this." But in hindsight, it's like, well, that is exactly what happened just as an adult for him, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's that. There's also the sequence where he's just talking one-on-one with Alexander and saying, hey, like these humans that you're around on this ship, like when they look at you, they just see a Klingon. They don't see one of their own. And young Alexander's like, no, I like, I belong here. These are my friends. Like how I look does not matter. And old Alexander doesn't seem to think that's true. Now we don't know it's old Alexander at that point, but on hindsight, it's a bit more interesting, that conversation, I think, knowing that's coming from himself, saying, hey, you'll never be accepted, because maybe he's had experiences by the time he's grown up that indicate that he's not going to be accepted. So, like, yeah, I mean, that's fine. Him talking about missing his mother as well was like, oh, he's speaking from experience as opposed to just guessing how Alexander feels. That also makes some sense. I think my big thing here is that, one, I don't think the episode up until the twist is that great, at least in the main plot. I think some of the side stuff, which is Riker talking to Quark, or some of the things around the edges are fun.
How many vouchers did he have?
12 platinum bars worth.
Vouchers that can only be redeemed in Quark's bar.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Riker trades them for intel, and Quark gets all happy about it. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, you don't have to send them into it. I've already made them void.
They've been voided. Don't worry.
On my little doohickey here." Yeah. No, that was it was a fun sequence. But I think this idea is so big that I think it's a waste to just do it this quickly at the end of this episode. Like, and we're so near the end as well that I think part of it also is the fact that, and admittedly this is like meta knowledge, if I was watching this show as it originally aired, I wouldn't have known this. But like, I know Worf's going to be in movies after this. I know he's going to be in Deep Space Nine for seasons. It just kind of feels like I just don't believe this future that you're talking about. And I know that Worf says, well, you've already changed things by telling me this, so the future's probably going to be different now. And sure, but that also feels a bit hand-wavy to me.
I would say until you go far enough into the timeline to get to like Picard, up until that point, like I don't think any of the other appearances preclude this future still happening, because he dies when Alexander is an adult and is in charge of the house. So it's like that's decades away.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like any of those future appearances invalidating the future that this character's saying. I'm just saying that it just doesn't feel like it's implying a whole direction, and I just don't feel like that. Like I don't think when I'm watching Worf in Deep Space Nine, or we're watching him in the Next Generation movies, where I'm thinking, oh, he's going to go down this path until he's assassinated with young Alexander on Klingon. I don't know. I don't know. The whole thing just kind of feels tough for me to swallow. It feels like an idea that's so big that if they made this like a proper storyline where like, oh no, we've got old Alexander from the future here for a little while, and we're going to make some big change where we'll know that he's changed the future, maybe because he'll fade away or something once he's altered the future. None of that happens with other characters who have changed the future in Star Trek, but you know what I mean? Something more definitive of like, oh, I've actually affected a change here because young Alexander's made a choice or something. I don't know, but ultimately it's just kind of hand-waved by Worf saying, well, you've already told me this, so that's like a butterfly effect thing. Like already things are going to be different.
I don't disagree with that. I think that was one of those things where I can just accept it because it's far enough. The event of what it is far enough in the future that it can be after all of the shows and movies that Worf's still in anyway. So it's like, yeah, it's fine. I can live with it, even if it was still to happen. Like, it just didn't bother me. I do agree though that there was such a big idea. It feels like they wasted it. I do wonder if maybe this was something they'd had as an idea that they would have tackled over the course of like multiple seasons originally, but then they were just like, oh, actually, well, we don't have time for that now, so just wrap it up, guys.
Yeah, like did he go back to his own time at the end of this? Did he just go and live somewhere else? Because now he's like an anomaly. Like,
I don't know. I think he might have gone back to Klingon, because it makes it sound like he's like before we know who he is, he's a trusted member of the family. He's not part of the family, but he's like a trusted lieutenant, right? I just wonder if he just goes back to fulfilling that role, because I don't think he can get back to his own time. I think it was a one-way trip.
But yeah, that's what I would assume. So, but he just kind of disappears, and like that's it.
I think he just leaves to go carry on doing his own thing, but but trying to stay away from young Alexander to not influence things and letting things play out as they're supposed to.
Yeah. I like the whole thing about Worf accepting that Alexander's got his own path, and that he's going to try and promote different qualities than maybe traditional Klingons would see as strength. Like he kind of learns to accept that about his son, which was always going to be the arc of this episode, right from the first scene. When he's mad that he's not accepting the role of a warrior, the whole point of this is going to be accepting, he's not going to be exactly what I assumed he was going to be. He's going to be his own thing.
If he chooses to be a warrior, it'll be on his terms, not because it's something he has to do.
Yeah. Which also, maybe that's the other thing, is that that detail feels a little bit repetitious with last episode with Wesley, about just not being what they expect him to be.
I do agree with that, yeah. But that I don't think that's so much the fault of this episode, right? That's just poor structural placement. Like how much control did the writers of this episode have over that?
Yeah, it just feels weird to have the last Wesley episode and the last Alexander episode both kind of try and do part of the same lesson. I mean, this one frames it a little bit more from like Worf accepting it, as opposed to the other episode was more about Wesley realizing it. I guess Alexander's too young to either. Well, he's pretty sure of it, actually. I guess he's already ahead of Wesley, is what I'm getting from this episode. Alexander's already so sure that he's not going to be a warrior Klingon like his dad.
So we're saying that Alexander is more mature than Wesley Crusher.
Yeah, I think I can get on board with that. Even with the water balloons at the start of the episode, I think I can get on board with that.
I will say, though, just to defend the idea of Wesley Crusher.
Go on. The floor is yours.
At the age that he was, when he was younger, not where he was last episode, but when he was younger, he was also pretty sure he wanted to be part of Starfleet, right? Like, he was pretty dead set on that. So, and I think that's part of where Worf's coming from here is, Alexander, you're dead set on this right now, and you're very happy with this now. But if you don't do this right, you can't change your mind later. Whereas if you do the right now, but before you're 13, you can still not be a warrior later in life. But if you don't do it, you can't then be a warrior. So it's more, I think Worf's thing here is actually like keeping your options open. Like this is gives you more choice to change your mind later if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I was just never ultra compelled by the core like concern this episode. It just I never felt myself kind of like really getting into this concern that Worf had for him all that much. And I think the episode really wanted you to care about that, and then obviously the twist that this is his own self caring about it from the future was really meant to like drive it home.
I think something interesting, like just from my perspective compared to you, is that for me, you mentioned how it was kind of like a bar mitzvah. This felt very much like a religious thing as opposed to something practical. And I have a very Catholic family, and it was very much you need to do this. You are forced into this path. You don't get that choice when you're that age. You got to do it just in case. So I think for me, I was going into it with that mindset, and I don't know. I think it worked a little bit better for me, just on as a religious parallel for my enjoyment.
I mean, I can see the comparison to that. Yeah, I mean, that never really entered my head all that much as I was.
That was for me. That was how I felt in the very first scene. Like you said, bar mitzvah again. For me, with my Catholic upbringing, it felt like a confirmation. is the
for the record, I'm not Jewish. I feel like the way you keep saying that is
no,
implying
I'm
that...
saying it because you specifically mentioned Bar Mitzvah earlier. Yeah. That was your immediate point of reference of the
that was
the ceremony to become a man, right?
Yeah, that was because of the age that
exactly.
Alexander
right.
is.
That's exactly why you chose that, and I understand that. But like, and I don't think you weren't then viewing it through the lens of a religious ceremony. You were just, that was an easy parallel for you. But for me, like in that first scene, that was it then. That was in my head the entire episode. So I think viewing it from that angle, for me personally, probably added a good bit of enjoyment.
I mean, maybe part of the reason why I was so disinterested in them trying to convince him of this is because I would have equally been uninterested in someone trying to tell me I should do some sort of religious ceremony when I was that age. Now, no one ever actually made me do that, but I would have definitely not have liked hearing that.
But that's why I think I found it quite interesting, is because I was uninterested in doing the religious ceremonies at that age, but I did have people forcing me into doing them. So I don't know. I just it felt, I don't know, relatable might be a little bit strong, but just I had that extra lens. I was very aware of it while I was watching it, and maybe that's why I enjoyed it more than you did.
I mean, that's fair. Obviously, once the twist hits and you've got this extra layer to it of like the time travel part.
Yeah, I can't relate to that part.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously throws this wrench into it where it's like, okay, I get the potential here of like, okay, Alexander actually literally has regrets, and maybe in some way that would actually enforce all of Worf's fears, because Alexander himself has all these regrets in the future about decisions that he made as a child. But they'd flip it and have Worf actually stick up for his young version of his son and be saying, no, I've realized this is actually, you have got your own path to walk. You've got your own destiny to walk. It can't just be what I pick for you.
The idea that even if it ends in his death, it might still be the right thing for Alexander to do. Yeah. For him as a person, yeah. And
I think that potentially, like on paper, saying that out loud, I think there's a lot of power in that. I just don't know if this episode actually achieves that power and how quickly it gets to it.
That's fair. I don't disagree with that. I think it is a little bit flawed, a little bit rushed, a little bit repetitive in its structure of the episode. But I still probably enjoyed it more than most of the recent Next Gen episodes. It's pretty like, it's a low bar, but it's probably my favorite out of the last good handful that we've had.
Nah, give me the one with the turn into animals.
Are you serious?
It was more entertaining.
Oh my god. Yeah, okay. Put on here.
So they find the sisters, the Klingon sisters, and Riker does a little bit of a bluff. I don't know if there was a reason why Picard was missing for most of it, because he was there for the start when he
was there. He was like, oh, yeah, we'll go hang out on this planet. Don't worry about it. We can be there and back in no time.
But he disappeared.
Then he's gone.
Yeah, he was gone for the rest of the episode.
I kept not. Did I miss something? Like, did I zone out for a minute and just miss something? But like, I don't think I did.
No, I don't remember an explanation because I noticed it because Riker was the one like making all the choices and commands and all the stuff that was happening later on. I was like, oh, where's Picard? Like, I get why Riker would be doing it, but like, I don't remember why Picard's not here.
There's usually a little hand wave as to why he's not there.
Yeah, I don't know. Patrick Stewart had a doctor's appointment.
He had to go shave his head that day.
Morning. I don't know what he was doing. But they did a whole thing where he has Worf fire photons at like some of this minerals that were being transported that are now out in space, because the dust will reveal the cloaked ship that the sisters are hiding on.
And he's very smug that it works, which I really liked.
Yeah, that was a good plan.
It was, but like there's I can't remember who it was, but like, how did you know they were there? How did you know that would work? And he's just so smug about it. Like, don't worry, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. But yeah, they bring the sisters on, and they're like, yeah, you try to assassinate Worf. You give them your dagger with your family sigil on it. And this is the first I'm hearing of it. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, it was probably this guy that's meant to be their friend. Obviously, I didn't know it was going to be Alexander himself.
Yeah, it feels like a setup.
Yeah, but they're like, oh, well, someone's used our dagger to set us up. But then they notice the detail that sort of leads into the twist, which is like, wait a minute, there's 4 symbols on this dagger. And they're like, yeah, what of it? And they're like, well, this one represents our father. This is me. This is my sister. And then this 4th symbol represents my sister's child. And they're like, we didn't know you had a child. And she's like, yeah, I just found out I was pregnant. I've not told anyone yet. So how in the hell does this dagger exist? What's going on? So that's your hint that this must have come from the future in some capacity. So
I enjoyed the hunt for the twins, chasing them down. Obviously, we had the Quark team, and then we had the scene at the depleted mine with the guy that they'd just abandoned there and stole all the stuff from him.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes of people like negotiating deals in this episode. You've got the mine guy with the crew. You've got obviously Quark with Riker, and then you've got Riker and this guy who's transporting the stolen goods.
Yeah,
a lot of negotiating.
Riker's the new top diplomat.
Yeah. He clearly knows a lot about rules of acquisition because he acquires a lot of stuff this episode.
He does a good job. Yeah.
Good stuff. I suppose also maybe the other thing about the whole Alexander thing is that when just before the big conversation where it all comes out, Worf stops him from killing him like his own younger self. Like he was going to assassinate his young self to like change the future. Like that's actually really dark and something else that really a lot more thought and weight should have been given to really explore.
I agree. I love the idea that he'd rather himself die than Worf. Like he's got that much regret over what happened that he thinks by killing himself, like by essentially committing suicide, Worf would live a longer life, and that he thinks Worf deserves that more than he does because he made the wrong choices. So let's not let him make the wrong choices to begin with.
Yeah. So again, feels maybe a little undercooked. On that.
Again, I love it as an idea. Definitely could have done a bit more developing. But.
So yeah, and it basically just the episode ends with Worf saying to young Alexander, "Hey, they'll plenty of time for training in the future. Let's go do what you want to do." And that's kind of how the episode ends. So yeah. I'm very lukewarm on it. Like, it wasn't the worst thing ever, but like I wasn't really feeling all that impassioned by it, and the twist kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Not because the idea itself is flawed, but just because I think that it need to be like, do that twist like in the opening act, and then have the entire episode be about exploring kind of why he's here and why he believes what he's doing is the right thing to do. Like that's the more interesting part to me, and doing it all in one scene and have them just kind of hug and say, "Oh, it's all solved." It just, I don't know, didn't quite work for me. But
yeah, I can see that. I still think for me it was a pretty solid episode. Like I said, more enjoyable than most of the last handful.
Well, let's find out and see if the next one's looking any good. So this was Firstborn, and this is a relatively low rating. So I think I'm maybe more in the
relatively in the scheme of next gen, or relatively in the scheme of recent episodes this season.
Next gen in general.
Okay, yeah, but that's like every episode this season. So
okay, well, sure. Right, next episode's called Bloodlines. Here's the description on IMDb. Picard races the Ferengi in an effort to track down the son he never knew he had. What? Okay.
Oh, God.
And what is this son's name? Bresley Prusher?
Oh, Picard has an illegitimate child. That's what we're going with. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, but we'll find out. We'll find out next time. Obviously, we'll be back to Deep Space Nine before then, though, which is good because we've got an exciting two-parter to finish up on Deep Space Nine next time.
But we are nearly at the end of this now. We're closing it out.
Yeah, we're very near the end of TNG. Yep, and only a few episodes left. But yeah, let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments. Like, subscribe. But you can, of course, support everything over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Helps out a bunch if you do. Thanks to everyone who already does. You can also support via YouTube membership or anything like that as alternatives if you like, if that's more convenient. But thanks to everyone who already does support us. Is greatly appreciated. That is us, though. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, and somewhere out there on the next plane of existence, Wesley Crusher's having tea with Tommy Wiseau.